Minos, the son of Zeus and Europa, became king of Crete in Greek mythology. On a 9-year cycle, he had King Aegeus select 7 youths, 1 boy, and 7 females, to be sacrificed to the Minotaur in Daedalus' Labyrinth. When King Minos passed away, he assumed the role of an underworld judge. Sir Arthur Evans, an archaeologist, named the Minoan culture of Crete after King Minos. Situated on the island of Crete, the Minoan civilization was a cultural hub during the Bronze Age. Numerous people consider it the first European civilization because of its illustrious art and architecture. After disappearing into oblivion with the decline of the late Bronze Age, the Minoan civilization was unearthed during archaeological digs in the early 20th century. Originating in the indigenous Neolithic culture around 3100 BC, the Minoan civilization expanded to include sophisticated urban sites around 2000 BC. A hybrid civilization developed after 1415 BC, when they fell under the cultural and maybe political dominion of the mainland Mycenaean Greeks. This culture persisted until about 1100 BC. The original archaeologists who dug these massive structures called them Minoan palaces. Their precise function in Minoan culture is still up for discussion. Still, later studies revealed that they were more likely used for religious and economic functions than royal dwellings. A substantial rectangular court encircled the palaces with multiple stories and intricate floor designs. Many people visit Knossos and Phaistos to see the ancient palace ruins. Among the many forms of Minoan art, one can find seals, figures, and vibrant paintings. It is thought that they were the ones who first used genuine fresco, a method where the pigment blends into the wall. Nature and ritual are common topics. The figures in Minoan art are in motion, lending the work an exuberant or mystical air. Cretan hieroglyphs and linear A were the two writing systems that the Minoans created. The Minoan language identity remains a mystery, as neither script has been completely understood. Evidence suggests this language does not fit neatly into any well-documented language families, such as Indo-European or Semitic. Mycenaean Greek, the official language of Crete after 1450 BC, was written using a variant of Linear A called Linear B. Some Ito-Cretan inscriptions from the Bronze Age suggest that this language may have descended from Minoan. During the turbulent late Minoan period, Minoan civilization underwent a sea change. Artifacts such as the serpent goddess figurines, La Persiana fresco, and pottery decorated in the marine style are among the most famous Minoan artifacts that date back to this period. A continuation of the Neopalatial culture's affluent period, the late Minoan occurred between 1700 and 1470 BC. There are volcanoes eruptions which happened after the late Minoan sub-period around 1600 BC was significant. It was one of the most enormous volcanic explosions ever recorded, measuring 7 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index and ejecting 60 to 100 cubic kilometers of material. Knossos and the other Minoan sites continued to thrive despite the destruction of Cycladic towns like Akrotiri and the abandonment of specific sites in northeast Crete caused by the eruption. The late Minoan period, 1625 to 1470 BC, which followed the eruption, witnessed the completion of daring new structures, a surge in global commerce, and innovative and creative movements like the marine style. Severe Iceland-wide destructions at the end of the late Minoan period signaled the end of Neopalatial culture, since other locations were spared in a way that does not fit with natural disasters. These destructions are believed to be intentional. There has always been much discussion over what could have caused these disasters. Some scholars have suggested that internal turmoil was at blame, while others have linked them to Mycenaean invaders. Similarly, some scientists have tried to connect them to the residual environmental damage from the Thera eruption. Plato, a Greek historian, wrote over 2000 years ago about the legendary Atlantis and how the sea subsequently submerged it. However, the source of Plato's account remains unknown. Some archaeologists have recently begun to think that Crete might be the narrative's starting point. The group hopes that modern scientific inquiry may reveal something concrete about Plato's archaic folk memory. The Minoans were the first in Europe to build paved roads. They were an advanced civilization with a culture of talented craftspeople and municipal engineers. The Minoans were as skilled at building and sailing ships as the ancient Egyptians were, and their maritime empire was almost as extensive. They were a mysterious race that worshipped snake priestesses and sacrificed to humans. The myth of the Minotaur, a monster who was half bull and half man, and who lived in a terrifying labyrinth, originated from these kind of rituals in Greek mythology. Mirrors depicting the Minoan seaport of Akrotiri on the island of Santorini, 70 miles north of Crete, show farmers gathering saffron and joyful animals. Yet the Minoans had established their thriving metropolis on an island adjacent to the deadly Thera volcano, making it one of the most challenging places on Earth. A powerful earthquake hit Akrotiri around 1600 BC. An eruption followed at a later date, with the release of over 10 million tons of rock, gas, and ash 25 miles into the air. The Theron eruption is among the greatest in recorded human history. The other debris miraculously spared the tremendous Minoan towns, despite Crete's closeness to the volcano. The Minoans vanished from history even as they reached their strength pinnacle. For years, historians have tried to piece together what happened to them and why they disappeared. Near the old village of Palikastro on the island of Crete, layers of unusual and disordered soil, broken pottery, building materials, and even cow bones can be found. Finally, the mystery behind the Minoan civilization's disappearance has been solved. An enormous natural catastrophe, 5,000 years after it occurred, is responsible for their demise. A magical metropolis that went under the waves is eerily similar to an empire swept away by a wave. Even if the exact identity of Crete as Atlantis will remain a mystery, we now have a theory as to why Europe's first major civilization collapsed.